Hello to you, our True North Quest podcast listeners and viewers. In today's episode of Your Best Life, my husband Pete and I invite you to take an afternoon road trip with us down the Klamath River, then up the Scott River in Northern California, where I spent some wonderful childhood years, and where Pete has many years of whitewater rafting, camping, and adventure memories with his youth group and campers and staff working with him at Kidder Creek Camp, and of course his family. We're sharing the second S in our Quest's acronym today, which stands for Selfless Gifts, and we'll explain how your gifts were given to you in order to give them away to fulfill your calling and create positive and lasting change in our world. We hope this episode will be an inspiration to you on your journey to find and fulfill your calling. And if you're watching on YouTube, we hope you'll enjoy the springtime scenery of our beautiful backyard wilderness. Welcome to Your Best Life podcast, where we help you discover your calling so you can live with purpose and clarity. We're Pete and Julie Morrill, your guides, mentors, and lifelong adventurers, and we're here to help you find your true north. Pete, before we dive into this episode, I want you to share the opening welcome you gave to your staff at the beginning of each summer season at Kidder Creek Camp. And could you explain how that corresponds to what you call selfless gifts?
Well, today is going to be an interesting topic. You know, I can think of the first time that we were, that I would get my summer staff together. And it was kind of an orientation time. It was a little bit of a time to get ready for the boot camp of what we call staff training, which was about a 10 to 14-day process, depending on the year. And I would look them in the eyes. I'd say, there's a few things that you need to understand. And I'd go through a couple of basic things. And then one of the things that I would say is, one of the things that you need to understand about this summer is it's not about you. And I would explain, you know, this is going to be a little bit of an adjustment because you've been in college, and college really is about you. It may not seem like that, but you are taking classes that you've chosen. You're living in a place that you've chosen that's specifically designed for you. A lot of times you go to a cafeteria, the meals are for you. The professor is there to enlighten you. Your parents have prepared for you to be there, and many times they're paying for you. And in reality, it's all about you. For the most part, you can wake up anytime you want to go. If you want to go to classes, you can go to classes. If you don't have to. There's all kinds of recreation opportunities for you. And now that you're here at Kidder Creek, it's the opposite. And it's going to take a little bit of a mental adjustment, because this summer is not about you. It's about the campers that are here and about what kind of life experience we're going to give them while they're here. It's a little bit like this whole topic of selfless gifts. We've been talking about who you are, and that really has helped you try to elevate all the things that get you excited, that you're passionate about, that you're skilled in, that are reflected in your life story. But now we're going to flip the script a little bit, and we're going to tell you that, you know what? All of those things are selfless gifts that have been given to you, so now you can give them to others. It's not about you. It's a hard message until you realize it's very freeing. I don't have to be about everything that it doesn't have to be about what's best for me. It has to be about giving my best to serve others. Yeah, so I think it would be good to remind everybody of the acronym, because the S is really a summation of the acronym. So the first, the Q, stands for the three big questions that we want everybody to ask. Those are, who am I? What's my calling, and what difference will it make? We think if you really wrestle with those three questions, then you're going to have a more intentional life. The remaining part of the acronym is answering the first question: who am I? And the U in the quest stands for what's your unique story. Everybody has highs and lows, but really what we're looking for are the things where you felt most fulfilled, the things that most exhilarated you. And it's interesting that we're on the Klamath River because much of the highs in my unique story, at least in the last 20, 25 years, have been on this river. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's what unique story is. E stands for emotional grid. This is really your personality. It's the way that you see life and the way that others see you and how you interact with people. A lot of people would simply call it your personality. We call it emotional grid because we think it's the grid with which you see life. Then the first S in Quest is skills and abilities, and that's fairly self-explanatory. Then the T is your true heart passion and core values. This is the things in your life that you are unusually impassioned by. These are the things that sometimes it's things that you want to see change in the world. Sometimes it's ways that you want to um, explore the world, or what really gets you excited. And then core values is what is the environment that helps you thrive? The emotional environment, perhaps the um, actual physical environment, the relational environment. What are the things that you value that really make you thrive? And then the final S is what we're talking about today, which is a culmination of everything, but it's the selfless gift. What is that selfless gift that you've been given, but you cannot help but give to other people? And that selfless gift is going to be um, really the summation of your life calling. Uh, and that's what we'll spend. And that's where we try to answer the last two questions as well, which is what is my life calling and what difference will it make in the world or in my surroundings?
How does the term selfless gifts have a double meaning?
Yeah, so I think it's really important for people to understand this. When we look at your selfless gifts, we're first of all looking at what are the things that you have been given. So this includes your family, perhaps your upbringing, your experiences, your education, the amount of care that you were given or nurture that you were given. All of those things were given to you selflessly. In other words, people didn't give them grudgingly. Many of these were given by your parents. Some of them were given by your community or your church or all of them, but they gave them to you graciously, right? And so those are the things that we then take into and filter through our strengths and skills and personality and all of that. We figure out what our life calling is, and then what is it that we're compelled to give to those around us, where we cannot be casual about the things that we really have a calling, a mandate, a return on the investment that's made in us to invest in others. So, selfless gift is the idea that I have been given a lot of things. And now, based on who I am and based on all of the things that make me up, what am I going to give back
to the people around me, to my culture, to my country, to my kids, to all of those. What difference is it going to make that I'm here on the earth? I think probably the example that I can think of the most is when I was in between my college and my graduate years. I was really kind of looking for, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? I went and did a little exercise, which is very much like what we ask people to do when they're recalling their unique story. And that is, we want them to identify chapters, and then we want them to identify what was most fulfilling. And I did that. I did that through high school, I did that through college, and I did that a little bit through my post-college years. And I realized there was one theme. The theme was, when I was most fulfilled, I generally was in a leadership position. I generally was doing something in the outdoors. I was generally with a team. Most of the time I was leading a team, but sometimes I was just in an important role on the team. And I was generally doing something that was helping people identify how their faith, um, how to live an authentic life in the midst of their Christian faith. And probably the thing that I found most fulfilling was I was a program director at a small camp in Lumberton, Mississippi called King's Arrow Ranch. And several times during that summer, I felt like, man, this is just the best thing in the world. I was just very enthusiastic about my role there. And I realized that was the one role where all of those things came into play. One is I was in a leadership position. Two is we were mainly in the outdoors. Three is I was mentoring and coaching young people and my peers who were also the counselors. And we were doing it because we wanted to help kids understand how their faith could be more authentic to everyday life. And so while I was given all of those things as an experience, I realized when I was given those experiences, I had great fulfillment in the outdoors, when I was in leadership, when I was doing something related to my faith, when I was coaching and mentoring. And the aha moment was, I think I need to do something related to Christian camping. And it turns out I spent 20 years very fulfilled as a Christian camp director, right real close to where we're driving right now. And had I not been given those experiences, those gifts, those exposures, those fulfilling moments, I don't think I would have been nearly as prepared, um, nor as sure that this was my calling when I started running a camp called Kidder Creek, and ran that for 20 years, largely in the outdoors, with leadership skills, helping people live authentic Christian lives in a role that called me to be a coach and a mentor and a guide and a teacher. So for me, and that's what we're trying to help everybody understand, is everybody's been given a lot of gifts. Now, what is it? What package is going to make that so you can now start to give those gifts away? And the other option for me was politics. I was a political science major, and probably even a better example than the military. Um, as I was a political science major at USC, I got exposure to the political arena. Then I graduated. And during that time that I graduated, I was given, I was allowed to be in two part-time positions. One was a position of leadership in the campaign. I ran the volunteer operation of the John Stark campaign in the 36th Congressional District in California. And I was also challenged to become an intern in a church that was leading a college ministry. Very quickly, I understood that the motivation of politics was a motivation of power. and people there, we were always trying to appeal to people to give to our campaign. We were always trying to encourage them that if we got this gentleman in Congress, they were going to be able to represent their political concerns, their political beliefs, their political favoritism. And the ministry part was all about changing lives to live more authentically for God. And I just realized fairly quickly, I just didn't like, maybe I will call it the superficialness of the political world. And I love the authenticity of the faith-based world. From my perspective, it was so much more genuine and so much focused on giving. And politics is a lot focused on getting. How can we get more power? How can we get more representation? How can we get our voice heard more? And I was just much more motivated by that.
It sounds like, too, the authenticity that you strove for, that you crave, is one of your core values.
Yeah.
So that fits.
And that's where core values really rings true. And faith is one of my core values as well. And so it just becomes a really, all of those things start to overlap in a way that is very, 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 very emphasizing what is important to you. That's not a great way of saying it in the English language, but I think you get the idea. So, Julie, your upbringing is a great example of a selfless gift. First of all, your parents brought you up to this small community on the Klamath River. It was kind of a little house on the prairie, kind of.
Little house in the big woods. Let's get that straight.
Okay, or Little House on the River, right? And because of that kind of homey, very small town upbringing, and because it was located in this area, which has kind of a history of being very much very active, the gold rush, and then it became a bustling community in the late 1860s. You took your writing, which is a skill that you've been given. We think that God has given you that skill, right? And this upbringing, which your parents gave you, those were the selfless gifts given to you, and you've designed a book. You've written a book that's basically a historical novel on this area, maybe 100 years before you lived here, but still it encouraged you to do that because of your selfless gift. Now you're giving that gift away. Julie, I know the answer to this, but I think it would be fun for other people to understand. We're down here on the Klamath River, and your upbringing was kind of like Little House on the Prairie down here. I think it would be fun for them to understand how that and your love for writing has kind of combined and allowed you to realize a little bit of your heart passion.
I think I can share that right now I am writing a manuscript for a fiction novel about, it's set in the 1970s. It's my childhood, but it's fiction. And I think a lot of my childhood friends will recognize themselves in the story, but I'm not naming names. But it's just so fun because my upbringing was so wholesome and rich, and I want to say really innocent, because we grew up on this river in the middle of nowhere, and it was very rural, and it was literally set back about 10 years from the modern world because they were so behind in anything technology. We had party lines back there. Nobody even knows what that is anymore, but we would get on the phone with people, and there would be other people on the phone, and you had to say, hey, I'd like to make a phone call now. Could you please, or could you tell me when you're going to be finished pretty soon? Because we all shared the same phone line. It just crazy things like that.
So a gift was that very humble beginning, which kind of was a backdrop for some of your writing, right?
Yeah, a lot of my writing, well, actually 100% of my writing is historical, but I set most of it back in the 1890s. But this one is going to be my actual childhood memories in it. It's only partially written, so we'll see how it goes. Moving from the big city of LA, I lived in Upland, California, and I moved up here and I thought this was such a dream place to live and grow up and be a kid because there was just forest everywhere, creeks and rivers everywhere, and just to be outdoors, running around, exploring the outdoors all the time was amazing. There was a gigantic fire here and it wiped out a lot of Klamath River and surrounding rivers and communities here. And it's Quigley store, which is still standing. So I'm so excited. I went to Klamath River School on the Klamath River, and we had a very small class. Obviously, not very many kids went there. It was K through eighth grade, and I went there for several years, and we were just a very close knit group. I still know the kids that I grew up with. They've scattered into different parts of the planet, but at least we have kept in touch a little bit, and a few of them still live around here. And the other thing that was really special about that school were the teachers. I have really great memories of particular teachers that were a positive influence in my life. And one was Mrs. Kirkbride, who taught fourth and fifth grade combined class. And she was the one who really inspired me to write and keep writing, and nominated me for writers' workshops that she would send me to. And so that was such a gift. And I wrote prolifically as a child, like crazy amounts of writing, just for the fun of it. I was kind of obsessed with it. And I would write plays sometimes and kind of force my friends to act in different plays that I wrote and skits and things. So, yeah, it is a selfless gift that I was given, and now I can selflessly give that away to others in writing a story that's kind of about my childhood here.
While I was a student at UCLA, I worked for the Office with Students with Disabilities as a note taker, so I got to take free film classes. I didn't get credit for the classes, but I enjoyed them so much I seriously considered changing my major to film and television. And it was a gift to me. The gift of all those free classes is actually benefiting me now as I'm producing these little films for this podcast. And it's my gift to others. So it's kind of coming full circle, and it's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting to me is the Klamath River, or interesting to both of us, the Klamath River has really allowed me to give my selfless gift away too. So the river is a great gift for me because it's where I learned how to whitewater raft. It's where I learned so much of my outdoor ministry emphasis. It's where I really cut my teeth as a camp director. And the Klamath River probably has more memorable moments. I would speak often on the Klamath River, and I would use the rafting day or the certain rapids or whatever, wherever we were at, as examples to the students that I was speaking to of what life or what an authentic faith-filled life looked like, and use these very living examples for them. And so the Klamath River gave me a great gift, which is in turn gifts that I'm ready to give away.
When you talk about selfless gifts, part of it is not just the tangible gifts you've been given as is in your childhood or your parents, your school that you went to, your experiences, but also I think God-given gifts. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. This is my opinion, but almost everything has been given to us by God. But some people
have the gift of encouragement. Some people have the gift of service. Some people have the gift of leadership. Some people have the gift of teaching. In the spiritual world, or in the church world, those are called spiritual gifts. We call them selfless gifts because much the same reason. What have you been given that you're meant to give away? A lot of those are skills that are, we would say, divinely granted to you. And that becomes the spiritual gift. That becomes a selfless gift. To us, the terms can be somewhat synonymous. You know, it's been fun for me to see the whole idea of selfless gifts in my kids. My kids were raised in this small community. We ran this camp and we did outdoor adventure all the time. My son, Kale, he loved to go rafting, as did my daughter, Cammie. Kale is now, he spent the last 3 summers as a fishing guide in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Cammie has been a whitewater rafting guide 2 years in Colorado, and now she wants to reach out and do outdoor adventure for kids in trouble. Lexi was always around horses and was very involved in our horse program. She now owns 2 horses, enjoys taking her friends out horseback riding. It's because their unique story, because of their passions, and because of their environment that they were able to get those gifts and now give those gifts away. That's what selfless gifts are all about. The things that you have been given become packages that you can give to other people. So what's a selfless gift? It is really the very essence of what you've been given. Your upbringing, your education, your skills, your abilities, your passions, all packaged into one. Then we're going to put something fancy on it called a life calling statement. Then we're going to package it up so you can give it on a regular basis to other people, to your culture, to your surroundings, in a way that makes you feel like this is why I'm here on the earth.
We want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Today's episode of Your Best Life was brought to you by True North Quests, helping you discover your calling so you can live a life filled with purpose. Find out more at tnadventures.org, where you can book an appointment with a calling coach, learn about upcoming True North Quest workshops, and more. And by Marble Mountain Kennels, where exceptional Labrador retrievers are bred and trained for adventure, companionship, and service. Visit mmkennels.com to meet your new best canine friend. And by Julie's Creative Classroom, providing fun educational games and digital products for students in Julie's online Creative Classroom TPT Teachers Pay Teachers store. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, remember your best life starts with knowing your calling and finding your true north.